Hello and welcome to the video. I'm Jimmy the Mower and today we're going to be changing this fuel pump on a Yamaha G series golf buggy. So then, if you've seen some of the other videos, I'm sure you'll have seen us with this golf buggy. You're riding around with it. We did a full service on it when it first came to us, and it's been great, but occasionally we have a bit of a stutter with the fuel. Now, I'm presuming because the fuel lines are a bit bodged up, we've got a thicker fuel line over here and a thinner fuel line on here, and when this bends round, it actually kinks, and I think that might be stopping the fuel flow. But in stock, bizarrely enough, we have one of these. Now, these fuel pumps, they fit a lot of different machines, golf buggies, mowers, etc., etc. And they've got like one way out, two way outs, three way outs, four way outs, five way outs, depending on what model it is. They just blank them off on this one. So we just got one in and one out. That's it, and that's for air down there. So being as we've got this, I thought I may as well change it over while we're changing the fuel lines over, and hopefully it should make a difference and it'll be running perfectly again. So the fuel pump that we've got to change is identical, and if I just put the torch on, you might be able to see it down in there. So this is it here. Now, they're not difficult to take off. There's a couple of bolts at the top, one at the top and one at the bottom. They just put them in diagonally, and there's a couple of pipes. Fuel line here comes round straight into the engine, and basically you pull these fuel lines off and you make sure that you put them over there, so you know it goes back onto this side, and then from over there, so you know that one, the air goes back onto there, and the fuel coming in comes in from the top. So take a photograph of it if you're unsure, or make sure you put the lines where they're supposed to be, because you don't want to get them mixed up, because it certainly won't run then. So what we'll have to do, we'll just disconnect these fuel lines then, give it a shake out to get rid of any fuel that's in there, and then we'll take the pump off. Right, that was the old one off. That's simple enough. You can't really tell the condition of them without opening them up and looking inside, but that's for a whole different day. We'll put this one on the shelf when it's quiet in winter, strip it down, have a look inside, see if it is working properly, or see if it needs can be repaired or needs a repair. If not, then it's just for the scrap bin, I'm afraid. But here's the new one, and as you can see, almost identical. Well, in fact, they are identical, aren't they? They are spot on. There is no difference between the two. The only thing is, when the new one comes, this is the air line that goes in there. When the new one comes, you've got some rubber bungs on the end. I did take these off earlier just to check that there was some oil in there. They put oil in to stop all the seals drying out, and when you put it in, you need to really, I don't know if there's any left in there, or there is a little bit, yeah, shake it out, and you can shake that out of there, and it just stops this thin oil going in through our fuel system and fouling things up. So we just shake that thin bit out and make sure that's all clean, and then all we do is literally reposition it as it was and put it back on. What we'll do, we'll put the lines on. I always find it easier to put the lines on. You look at that line, you don't buy that bent like that. That's how this line has you know, formed over time. That's sat in there and it's formed a nice little bend on there, and because that's air, it's always running and it's always clear, and you've got that bend and it'll flow through no problem. The problem you've got is when it's trying to suck the fuel and you've got a kink in the line, like the little thin line that we had at the top, and it's got and it folds over, and because we've got it, it'll fold over and it'll kink, and when it kinks, it just goes like that. You can see, oh, I dropped it there, it's alive. You can see there's a tiny little bit on there where it's actually been rubbing, and where that's been rubbing, it kinks over and it goes flat, look, and when it goes flat, that stops the fuel going through. That's almost like an airlock. So I think that is the main thing. So I've got some different line like this with a thicker wall, so we can bend that, and really, even if I put all my pressure on there, you cannot bend it flat. There is still a gap in there for air to flow through, so for fuel to flow through. So if we change the fuel line for one of these, we can put it round. We know we're not going to have any kinking problems. We know we're not going to have any fueling issues. If it starts, runs, drive, we've solved the problem. Right, so I'll just click this back on. Oh, and importantly, we've got little clips on here, look. These tiny little clips. I'll get a close-up photo of those. You operate these with a pair of pliers. You squeeze them in and it moves up and down. Put it on the edge and clip it. Now, always make sure when you're clipping these on, you're putting them on there, you clip onto the metal behind this little bulge that sits there. You need the clip there and it will stop anything slipping back and it will make a good and proper seal. Okay, so I'll just put these on and then we'll screw it back on. Right, just a quick pointer on fuel lines. That's our old fuel line there, this thin little bit. Look, it's quite worn out and all cracked at the edges, so it's not great. It's a new fuel line. It's got a lot thicker wall on there, reinforced, and with it being reinforced, we can bend that round corners and it's not going to cause any issues, whereas this one's quite thin and can collapse. So a little tip for you, always go for the thickest fuel line that you can, as long as the inside diameter is the correct one and it will fit. If you've got to route it anywhere where it's going to rub on something or chafe on something or get bent round, use a thicker walled tube, and then with that you can bend it round and you won't have any problems. Now you can see how it'll fit in. We just push it onto the old one. That's it. It's as easy as that. And then you can put the new one on and the new one will fit in. It's a bit of a tighter squeeze, but that's just because it's new, and that'll fit in no problem. And we do that, then we'll just put a little clip on just to hold it in place as well. So we'll make sure that's in. We've got to cut this to length, so we're going to have to cut it to length. So we'll probably do a little bit longer than that was, so a little bit longer than that one, and then we'll put the fuel filter in line. So we come out of there into the filter. Filter sits on the top, so that's a visual aid for us. We can inspect the filter and make sure it's clean, and then it will run from there down to the fuel pump. So I'll just cut those up and do them now. Well, there you go then. New fuel line on there. Nice new shiny clip. That's coming out. New clip, new clip, new clip all the way along. And as you can see with this, look, we can bend it round 90 degrees and there's never going to be a kink in there. It won't collapse on itself. So with a bit of luck, I should be able to put that back down there, that round on there, and we can sit it in, and the fuel filter will sit on top, and we'll be able to see that. As soon as we lift the seat up, we can see it's all running clear and fine. So that'll be great. Now, I'll bring you in so we can zoom right in, and I'll just put the fuel pump itself back on, and we'll just make sure everything's tight, and then we'll turn it over and see if it'll pull some fuel through. That's everything back together then. All the clips are in line, everything's done. The pump's back on down in there. That's all great. All we've got to do now is fire it up. So I've put the ignition to on. Make sure it's in neutral. You push it over this side, that's the beep, that's for reverse. Push it over that way, it's forward. I'll end up going through the wall. Put it in the middle, that's neutral. I'm pretty sure it is. I'll keep my feet on the floor just in case. But when we fire this up, it should start to draw through, and as the vacuum pump works, it'll pull itself down and it'll pull the fuel through. There'll be a little bit of residual fuel left in there, and it should fire up with that, and that should give it enough oomph to pull this through. If it doesn't and you have any problems, I've got a little beaker full with unleaded there, and what you have to do is take this off and just manually fill the filter up, or fill this line up with fuel just to push it in. But fingers crossed, we'll give it a go. Pull the choke out as well and just give it a blast. Just started coming through. Well, that's absolutely amazing, how these engines work. You saw us there, we emptied out this fuel line. This one's brand new, so there's nothing in it. No fuel all the way through. There would have been a little bit left in the carburettor, and when we fired it up, the pump started working straight away, sucking the fuel through into here, and it's gone through a couple of cycles. The fuel filter's nearly full, and that's it. It didn't falter at all, did it? Absolutely perfect. I'm chuffed to bits with this, I really am. I'm going to put the seat on and give it a razz round the block, just make sure everything's working as it should. But apart from that, I'm really happy, and it's all done. Thanks for watching. If you've got anything nice to say, pop it in the comments section below. I'll put a link in the description to the bits and pieces that I used in the video. Give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you can. I'm Jimmy the Mower. I'll catch you on the next one.